Have you come across the term SSH or secure shell while working on any of your projects? And are you wondering what does SSH stand for? What are the basics of SSH and how does the SSH mechanism works? Then this course is specifically meant for beginners like you who are new to SSH terminology and don't know anything about SSH. So this course is going to help you in order to understand about the basics of SSH. This course is just for the beginners who want to learn SSH at the beginning of your career, just to know what is SSH, how we can generate the SSH keys and basic concepts involved in the SSH. So here is the short glimpse on the contents covered on this course. We are going to discuss about the basics of SSH, what is SSH, what is the algorithm which drives the SSH, and how the authentication will happen and establish the secured channel or the tunnel between the client and the server so that they can communicate securely over the web without the security data breach or any other threats from the third party. We are going to learn in detail how we can generate SSH key pair, that is private and public key. As SSH is going to make use of asymmetric encryption standards over here, we are going to learn what does it stand for shortly in this course. We will learn how we can generate the SSH key pair on Windows, Linux, as well as on the Mac. So Mac specifically we won't cover. We will explain the concept with the help of Linux terminal. That will hold true for Mac as well. So both are having the terminal. So on Windows we will make use of couple of applications and demonstrate how we can make use of SSH. At the end of this course, we will have hands-on on how we can SSH into the server from our client machine with the help of private key as well as with the help of password. Both the concepts we will learn. With the wide adoption of cloud, that is AWS, Google, Oracle, any other cloud platform, we are using SSH heavily in order to log into our remote servers and carry out the operations available with the resources on that particular cloud platform. We hope you would enroll for this course and learn along with us what does SSH mean and how we can generate the SSH key pairs and how we can log into the servers from the client. So without wasting much time, let's begin with our course. In this class, we are going to learn about the basics of SSH. What does SSH stand for? How SSH works? And what is the technology which drives this SSH? What are the pros and cons of SSH? First, let's see what is SSH. SSH stands for Secure Shell. SSH is a cryptographic network protocol. Cryptography is a technique with the help of which the sender and the receiver will be able to communicate securely, that is without the intervention of third party. So the third party cannot read the data or the messages what is exchanged between the sender and the receiver. With the help of this SSH, we can establish a tunnel or communication channel between sender and receiver so that the messages are not read or decrypted by anyone during the path. Now the question will arise, why does SSH is used? SSH are basically used in order to access the remote system or servers. With the wide adoption of cloud servers nowadays, we basically make use of SSH heavily in order to establish the connection between our server and the client machine. This SSH will provide a mechanism that is for mutual authentication between the server and the client so that a tunnel or the channel is established for communication purpose. Now why does SSH is needed? We already have username and password with the help of which we log into our cloud systems. Now why suddenly there is a requirement for SSH? So username and password most of the time are highly risky because we might use lot of username and passwords in order to carry out our lot of activities, like we will have a username password for our personal email account and lot of other stuffs. Maintaining all those username and passwords will require us to audit those things in a file or somewhere so that we can remember. So this makes username and password risky because someone who is having access to those plain text files wherever we store these passwords, they can try to get those passwords and log in on our behalf and carry out the operations. Before SSH, there was symmetrical encryption in which the sender and the receiver used to authenticate with a single key. That is a key, it could be anything like 1, 2, 3, 4. The sender will send this key and the receiver will identify this key and then they try to establish the connection. As there is only one key involved over here, it makes again the security risky because anyone who is having access to that key will try to log in on our behalf. So SSH makes use of asymmetric encryption, that is instead of one key like in symmetrical encryption we are having couple of keys, that is a pair of keys that is called as public key and the private key. So public key, this key will be generated and stored in the server as well as in the client machines. Like there is a cloud, so there we have the public key attached to the VM or any other resources. Any communication happens with the client, it could be a user or the principal or application, so it could be authenticated with the private key. So public key is basically used for encrypting the data and private key will be used for decrypting the data. So every user application will have their own private key with the help of which they will decrypt the data whatever is sent by the server. Public key and private key are used in a combination to encrypt and decrypt the message respectively. Now here is the comparison between symmetrical encryption and asymmetrical encryption. In symmetrical encryption, the encryption will happen with the help of single key. That is, the server and the client will make use of the single key in order to authenticate and then establish the communication channel. But here in the case of asymmetric encryption, it is making use of key pair, that is private and the public key. We will learn in our next slides how this SSH key pair works in real time. This provides confidentiality, but here in the asymmetrical encryption, this provides the confidentiality, authenticity as well as non-repudiation. These are few of the algorithms with the help of which the symmetrical encryption key could be generated, and those are asymmetrical encryption methods. These are not the only one. There could be many, and there could be many more added in future as well. Now let's see in brief how this SSH works in real time. So there is the computer over here, client. It could be your FTP client machine like the FileZilla or the WinSCP, and there could be a server like the Oracle Cloud, or it could be any other server which will authenticate based on this SSH. Now first, the public key will be generated and it will be attached over here in the server, as well as it could be shared with the clients. So there are 4 steps involved here in order to establish the SSH communication channel. So in the first step, the client will share the public key to the server. The server, it will store this public key in its own database. So database could differ, it could be relational or any other thing, but it will store in some format in the server. So server, it will identify this public key and check whether that server is having this public key. When it finds that it is intended for this server only, the public key matches, then what it does is it will try to encrypt a message with the help of this public key, and it will send the message back to the client. Now when it sends the message back to the client will decrypt the message with the help of private key. So this client will be assigned with a private key. Like this, there will be n number of clients which will talk with the server. So this computer or the client which was assigned with the private key, it will decrypt the message which was encrypted by this server. After decryption, it will generate the hash value. In other words, in some of the cases, this is referred to as a session key as well. So once the hash is generated, what it does is it will send the message or the value of that hash back to the server. What this server will do is the message what it had sent in the previous, that is step 2, it will make use of that message and it will generate its own hash. After generating the hash, it will compare the hash value generated for that particular message with the hash values sent from the computer or the client. So once it identifies that both the hash values are same, then it will authenticate and it will send back the authentication token back to this client machine. So as you see, next the communication is established, that is the tunnel is established between client and the server so that they communicate openly over this channel. Now this client can make use of server for a number of cases which we will learn in our next slide. So after the connection is established, the client can access the file. Again, this will depend upon the permissions. Now let us, for the simplicity purpose, assume that our client is having access to everything on that server. So it can carry out the file operations like the FTP, that is file transfer protocol, with the help of SSH. It can carry out the CLI things, that is the command line interface, execution of commands. It can remotely log into any of the VMs. It can do n number of operations in that particular server. Now the question will arise how we can generate the SSH keys. So there are SSH clients available across the operating systems. Here I have covered only desktop. There could be many more desktop OSs or the mobile OSs for which SSH clients are available. Coming to Mac and the Linux operating system, they have built-in terminal which supports SSH. But when it comes to the Windows OS, we don't have this SSH client built into command prompt, but we can make use of PUTTY or WSL, that is Windows Subsystem for Linux. If you are using any other operating system, then you please check your operating system guide or the manual, like what are the SSH clients available for that particular operating systems. Now what are the best practices available for key management? Again, everything is having pros and cons. This is the con attached with the SSH keys. In order to overcome security breach associated with SSH keys, so these are the best practices which we need to follow as an organization. We need to have the visibility over the keys like whatever keys we generate, we should have proper visibility, like where we store those keys in our server and to whom we are sharing. It's a good practice that is to rotate the keys periodically, like once in a 2 or 3 months we change our public private key. Whenever we change those things, we give heads up to our clients or the applications that we are changing the keys. We must share those keys after rotation to our clients so that they can update in their system, so that the communication doesn't break in the production environments. Also, we should regularly audit and enforce the policies, as I told in the step 1, like where we place those keys in the server and also with whom we share those keys. Also, we need to make sure we name the keys properly so that we will know for what purpose we have generated those SSH keys. In real or the actual use case, we will have n number of public private keys generated. Also, we can control the access with the help of permissions. Only so and so person will be able to access the keys which are stored in the server, as well as on the client side as well. We must always avoid storing these keys as a plain text files on our client machine. We should always make sure our client machine is not accessible to anyone and we keep our SSH files safe. So we have studied in brief what is SSH and how does the SSH works, what are the pros and cons of SSH. In our next class, we will learn how we can generate SSH key, that is private and public key. Also, we'll learn the various methods how we can generate those keys in Windows operating system as well as on Linux. In this class, we are going to learn how to generate SSH keys, private and public key, with the help of WSL, that is Windows Subsystem for Linux, on our Windows computer. I am currently making use of Windows 11 operating system on my desktop. The prerequisite for this is you need to have a WSL Unix distro over here installed. I am currently making use of Ubuntu distro for Windows 11. So you can download that distro from Microsoft Store. This is the distro what I am making use of currently. After installing the distro, if you are facing any issue, just make sure you have turned on WSL. In order to turn on the settings, you have to go to your Windows settings. Just search for turn on and off. You will see this option, that is turn Windows features on or off. Click on this. If you are unable to see that option, just you have to search for the Windows feature. Then from there you can navigate to turn Windows features on or off. So here if you scroll down, there is something called as Windows Subsystem for Linux. Just make sure this is checked mark and click on OK. Now let's proceed with our class to create SSH keys. Here is the documentation by Oracle on how to create the SSH keys. We can create the key with the help of SSH keygen command from our Linux terminal directly. For each and every argument which we are going to make use of in this keygen, Oracle has documented what each stands for. We will learn one by one. So we can give in a stretch everything, or else we can just run only SSH keygen in our terminal and we can run the commands in bits and pieces. So we are going to do the same, that is we are going to run the command in bits and pieces. We are not going to give the entire command at once. So it's your choice, whatever you want to follow the approach. Now let me open the terminal. Write the command ssh-keygen space. Now let's see what is the command. It is -t. That is the type which we are going to generate this key or the algorithm. We are going to make use of RSA. In our previous class, we had seen what are the various standards or the algorithms available in order to generate this SSH keys. So here in detail it is mentioned the type which are going to make use of RSA algorithm. If you want to use any other type, you can make use of that as well. Next, if you want to enter the passphrase, we can do that. One more thing what we are going to add is our key is of how many bits. For security purpose, you can increase the number of bits so that you can make the key stronger. So the minimum is 2048. We will make 4096. Let me open the terminal. -b within the brackets we have to write 4096 and click on enter. Now it is asking for where we have to store the file. By default, the path will be under home. This will be your virtual machine or the username .ssh and then the id_RSA. If you want to change this path, we can do that as well. Now let's see whether we already have this .ssh in our home learning folder. We are going to make use of Windows Explorer in order to check the files. Also, we can use the CLI as well on this terminal. We can navigate to that particular directory and use the ls commands. But as we are running this WSL, we have the advantage of making use of Windows Explorer. I will show you how we can make use of Windows Explorer and check the directories of Linux distro. If you open the Windows Explorer, On the left side, you will find the distros which are available on your Windows computer. Currently, I am having only Linux, that is Ubuntu 22.04. If you are having n number of Linux distros installed, it will list over here based on the version and the distro name. As we are going to store this public and private key in .ssh, we will navigate to the same folder, go to home, go to learning. As we don't have .ssh, we are going to keep it as is and click on enter. If you want to change, we can change as well. Next, it is asking for the passphrase. This is required in order to protect the private key. So we can make the security stronger so that whoever is having the access for the private key, they should know the passphrase as well. So this will increase the security layer. As of now, I just clicking on enter because I don't want to enter any passphrase. If you want to give, you can give it over here. So it is asking again, just I'm clicking on enter. So it has generated the SSH keys. Now let's verify whether it has generated the keys in the folder. Let us go to this Windows Explorer, click on refresh. It has created .ssh folder over here. Enter this. Yeah, we are having two folders over here. One is the private key, another one is a public key. So the public key will have the extension. Let's see what is the extension it has created. Go to properties. So it is having .pub extension, that is public file. For the private, it will not have any extension. It will straight away have the name, that is id_RSA, whatever we have mentioned while creating the SSH key, that is .ssh/id_RSA. Now we can place this public key in our servers so that we can SSH into that. Apparently, if you want to have any key comments, that is in order to uniquely identify your key, then you can make use of this command as well. As we have entered T, that is type, and the bit information, we can add the comment as well while creating the key. We have not added that, but if you want, you can add, because in real life scenario, we will work with n number of SSH keys. So that it will make the life easy for the person who is handling or managing those keys. In this class, we are going to learn how to generate SSH key pairs, that is private and public key, on our Windows computer with the help of PUTTYgen application. I have opened the PUTTYgen application over here. In order to open the application, you have to just search for Putty on your Windows computer. You will have this application already installed. I am currently making use of Windows 11 operating system. If you don't find this application, then you can download this from the Putty website. So in my case, this application is already available. So when you launch this application, you will see such kind of screen. So first thing is we need to select the parameters over here. I am keeping the default, that is RSA. In our previous class, we had seen how we can generate SSH key pairs from our Linux terminal. We had made use of WSL on our Windows computer. Same will be applicable for Linux machines as well. If you have not watched that video, please check out the video. First thing is we need to select the algorithm. I have selected RSA. We can select any other algorithm as well. And next thing is number of bits. I will make this as 4096. Default will be 2048. As you increase the number of bits, it will increase the security, as more number of bits will be available in order to encode and create the keys. Once you populate those details, we need to click on this generate button over here. Once you click on generate, it will take some time. So we'll pause this video for a couple of seconds and we'll resume once our PUTTYgen application generates the files for us. So Putty has generated the keys for us. If you see over here, it has having the fingerprint, the key comment. If you want to change the comment, we can change this as well. As we had seen in our previous class, these comments are used to identify the key uniquely. So if you want, we can change. I'm keeping this default. Next, it is asking for the key phrase. This key phrase is used for private key security. In order to enhance the security of the private key, we can add the passphrase. Also, we can confirm once we have populate the passphrase as well. I'm not populating any passphrase over here. Suppose if you want to connect to any specific cloud services like AWS or Oracle's cloud services, particular resource on that particular platform might require you to have the passphrase for the private key. At that time, you have to populate this. For this demonstration, we are not considering this use case. In order to save the private key and the public key, we need to click on this save private key. First, we are going to save the private key. I'm clicking on S. So I will be storing this file in downloads folder. As you see, the extension is ppk format. This .ppk is exclusively for Putty private key files. This will be used only for connecting from Putty. Here I am naming this as private key. If you want, you can name this with the comment as well. Whatever we have the comment over here, we can add it over here. So it's always a best practice to save the file with the comment name. Click on save. Also, we can save the public key. I will name this as public key. Click on save. Suppose if you want to save the private key in open SSH formats, if your requirement is to generate the private key in open SSH format, then first thing is we can copy this entire text, whatever is visible over here, and paste it in a notepad. Just select all and click on copy and paste in a notepad and save. So it will save in the open SSH format. This is the public key. In order to generate this private key, go to conversations and click on export open SSH key. Here it will prompt for, are you sure you have not populated the passphrase? Click on S. Save in the open SSH format. Let me name this as private key open SSH. Click on save. So this will save the file in open SSH format. So in this class, we had seen how we can generate the SSH keys, that is private and public key, with the help of PUTTYgen application from our Windows machine. In this class, we are going to learn how to generate SSH key pairs, that is public key and the private key, with the help of command prompt on our Windows computer. In our previous classes, we had seen how we can generate SSH keys with the help of Linux terminal. We had made use of Ubuntu distro on our WSL on Windows computer in order to demonstrate the use case. Also, we had seen how we can generate SSH keys with the help of PUTTYgen application, which comes out of the box with Windows 11 operating system. If you have not watched those classes, please check out those classes before proceeding with this class. In order to generate the SSH keys with the help of command prompt, first thing we need to make sure is Open SSH client is enabled. We need to go to settings. So let me click on this settings app. From the settings, we need to click on this applications. So the navigation might vary in our case. After this, we need to click on this optional features. Just scroll down and check whether Open SSH client is available on your computer. If you have not installed this Open SSH client, then you can install this feature as well. So let me close this application. Next thing is we need to go to search for CMD, that is command prompt. Right click on this and click on run as administrator. If you get a prompt, click on S. Now we need to run the command like what we had seen in our previous classes. That is, with the help of this command, I am making use of Oracle's documentation on how to generate SSH keys. I am writing the command, that is SSH -key gen space. Next we need to select the type of algorithm with which we are going to generate the key, and I am making use of RSA. There are a lot of algorithms available to generate the SSH keys. RSA is the default one. Next is the number of bits. I am increasing the security of the key by increasing the bit size to 4096. So default is 2048. If you run only SSH-keygen, it will consider RSA as the type and 2048 bit size. Apparently, if you want to add any comments in order to uniquely identify your key, you can add as well. I am clicking on enter. So it is saying generating your public and the private RSA key pair. Next, it will tell the location where it will install the SSH key. In my case, it will be users and the username .ssh folder it will create, and ID_RSA will be our private key. Also, it is going to create one more key, that is ID_RSA public key with the .pbu extension. I am keeping this default as I don't want to change the directory. If you want to change, you can provide the path over here. Click on enter. So it is asking for the passphrase. This is used for encrypting private key with the password. So this will enhance the security of the private key. Suppose if your computer is accessed by a lot of people and they come across your private key, then they must know the passphrase as well in order to SSH into any servers. I am keeping this empty and clicking on enter. If you want to populate the detail, then just provide the password and click on enter. You will get another prompt saying enter same password again. If you have entered the passphrase in previous step, you need to provide the same over here, and you need to remember this passphrase until you don't change your keys. Click on enter. It has generated the keys for us. Let us now verify. Installed in users, the name and the .ssh. Let's navigate to that folder. It was under users, the username, we have to search for the folder it has created today. I'm recording this class on 30th of August 2022. Click on this. So this has created two files. One is the private key. It is not having any extension. If you see the type, and the next one is the id underscore RSA. This is the public key, which will have .pbo extension. Let's check in the properties. Sorry, it is .pub extension for public key. Like this, we can generate the SSH key pair, that is private and the public key, in open SSH format with the help of command prompt. This will make the life easy so that we don't have to install the Windows subsystem for Linux and the Linux distros on our Windows computer. Also, we don't want to have the PUTTYgen application installed. So we can create the SSH keys right from the command prompt. In this class, we are going to learn how to generate SSH keys, that is private and public key, with the help of Ubuntu or any other Linux distros. For this demonstration, I am making use of Ubuntu, which is installed on my Oracle VirtualBox. If you have installed any Linux operating system as a standalone operating system on your computer, then that also will work similar like what I am showing over here with the help of Oracle VirtualBox. In order to generate SSH key, we have to get into the terminal. Just right click on this home screen and click on this open in terminal. Let me increase the size of this window. Now we need to follow the same steps like what we used to do in our earlier classes. That is, we have to write this command. In this case, we are not going to define this RSA, that is the algorithm which we are going to make use of in order to generate the SSH key. Also, we won't mention how many bits we need in order to create these keys. If we give just SSH keygen, it will consider by default algorithm as RSA and the number of bits is 2048. Comment if you want, we can add. So this it will ask in the consequent steps if we just give SSH keygen. So let me go over to the terminal. Here let me write as SSH hyphen keygen and click on enter. So it is asking enter the file in which you want to save the key. Here it is saying home/learning.ssh id RSA. Now let's verify if there is already .ssh folder created or not. Let me go to the files. So I'm here in the home. As of now, we don't have any .ssh files created or the folders. So let me go back to the terminal. If you want to check with the help of CLI, you can do by going to that folder manually with the help of cd command and then ls in order to check the directories available. As of now, I don't want to change the directory in which it has to save the key. I'm clicking on enter. Next, it will ask to enter the passphrase. As we had seen, this passphrase is used for private key so that it will increase the security of the key. Suppose if anyone is having access to those private key wherever you store, they must know passphrase as in order to SSH into the servers. So this is to increase the security purpose. As of now, I'm leaving this empty, clicking on enter. Again, it will ask enter the passphrase again. Suppose if you have entered the passphrase in previous step, we need to give the same over here and then click on enter. In my case, I have not entered anything in the previous step. I'm clicking on enter again. As you can see, the files are being created and this is the fingerprint. Now let's go back to our directory and check. Now we could see that .ssh folder has been created. If you open, we are having .pub, that is the public key, and id underscore RSA. This is the private key. Now we can push this to the server and we can SSH into that server with the help of those keys. In our next class, we will learn how we can SSH into any server, in which case we are going to make use of this VirtualBox as a server, and from Windows command prompt we are going to SSH into this server, that is VirtualBox. In this class, we are going to learn how we can SSH into any server from our client system. For demonstration purpose, I am considering my Linux computer, which is set up in the VirtualBox in my computer as a server, and the WSL client which we had installed in our previous class as my client, which will SSH into the server. This screen, whatever you see with this icon, that is 22.04, this is the WSL client, and whatever you see with the terminal, this is in the VirtualBox. So this will be our server and this will be our client. So let me maximize this in order to avoid any ambiguity. First of all, we need to install SSHD over here in the terminal. Here is the steps which I have prepared in order to set up the SSH server in our VirtualBox Ubuntu system. Before installing any softwares, we need to just run the sudo apt update. So let's run this here. just copy and paste. I will provide all the commands in the blog associated with this class. Please check out that blog in order to get the set of all the commands whichever I am going to make use of in this class. This has imported all the packages. Now let's check what is the next command. Sudo app upgrade. If you want, you can do. I'm running the latest version of Ubuntu right now in my computer. So next statement is we need to install the SSH, that is Open SSH server. Let me copy this command from here so that it can import all the packages for this Open SSH server. Let me go to my terminal. Let me clear this window. Right click and paste and enter. It will prompt you to get your input, that is to continue or not. I'm giving Y and clicking on enter so that it can import the packages necessary for Open SSH server. Yeah, it has installed all the packages. Now let's check what is the next step. We can verify whether our Open SSH server is running or not. Let me copy this, paste it over here, click on enter. So we are getting that started OpenBSD secure shell server. Now let's check what is the next step. So this is optional. If it is not running, we can just enable and we can start the SSH. Now we need to open the port 22, that is the TCP port, so that we can SSH into this server. I'm going to run this command in order to allow the SSH, which will open the port 22. The rules got updated. Next is we need to enable UFW. Copy this and paste it over here. Click on enter. Yeah, it is active and startup. Now let's check the status with this command. Paste it over here and click on enter. Yeah, it is saying it is accepting or the port is open for TCP port 22. Now we can SSH into this server. So we are going to make use of WSL client for this, which is on our host computer, that is Windows 10. Before starting, we have to make sure we have the public key installed over here. This is the shared folder with the help of which I am going to share the files between the server and the host computer, that is Windows. So this might differ in your case, because if you want to SSH into the server, you have to make use of that scp copy command in order to push the file from your client to the server or from server to the client, vice versa. So in my case, what I have done is I have copied the .ssh files from here and I have copied into my client. In my case, the client is the host computer, that is Windows, because my server is running in the virtual box within the same computer. So we can access these WSL files from within the file explorer. If you are using Windows 11, then you can access WSL file on the network tab. But if you are using Windows 10, then you can write this WSL $symbol. It will open the file explorer for your WSL client. In order to SSH into this virtual box server which we have created, we need to get the IP address. Let me check the IP address for this. It is 192.168.1.6. Let me copy this. This is essential when we SSH into any server. Now let us switch over to our WSL client, which is over here. And here let me write the command. This is the username learning @ and the IP address, and click on enter. It is asking for the password. So we need to enter the password of our VirtualBox machine that I'm giving it over here. Now if you see, it is logged into our virtual machine. Now let's see what and all folders are available with the ls command, so that we are having desktop documents, music, pictures and all. Now let's create one folder over here on the file. Let me go to the home. Let me go to pictures. Let me create one new file or the folder over here. This is dummy testing in VM. Let's go back to our WSL. So here let me just get into this pictures. Now let me give this ls. If you see, we are having the folder which we created in our server. So like this we can SSH into the server from the client machine. Now let's see how we can avoid that password. Like when we SSH into the server, it has prompted us to enter the password. As we are using private key, we shouldn't get the prompt to enter the password. So let's see how we can avoid that. In order to do that, first we need to provide the access to the private key. So we can run this command from the terminal of your client, that is over here, which will provide the access to those two files on your computer. So next step is we need to copy this SSH copy ID, that is in order to configure our server, that is to use the private key whenever we SSH into this IP address. Now we'll go to this client and click on enter. I have already done this, so it has added the key. So first time when you try to do this, you will get a prompt to enter the password. Just enter the password at that time. So in my case, it didn't ask because I'm running this command for the second time. But in your case, for the first time, it will ask the password of your server. That is, in our case, it is the virtual box. So we need to enter that over here. if we get the prompt. Now next step is we need to use the SSH command, that is to get into this server. For that we will use the normal command, but this time we shouldn't get the prompt to enter the password. 6. Click on enter. As you can see, we have logged into the server with this command directly. We didn't get the prompt to enter the password. Now if I try to check the folders within this server, let me see this ls. Also we'll navigate to pictures and check the folders what we had created, that is dummy test VM. So like this we can SSH into the server with the help of password as well as with the help of private key, in which case we can bypass the password authentication. This is how the SSH mechanism works and provides the channel or the communication tunnel so that the client and the server can communicate securely over the internet. We would like to congratulate you on completing this course successfully, and we would like to thank you for enrolling to this course. We hope you have learned something new with this course and you are now comfortable in understanding the concepts of SSH, how we can generate the SSH key pair, how we can SSH into any server from the client. This was just the basics, that is tip of the iceberg. So there is a lot of concepts involved in the SSH. This is just the beginner's guide so that you get comfortable working with SSH at the beginning stage of your project. We would like to get feedback from you. Please let us know how we can improve the content of this course. If you want to have any suggestion on our teaching style or the course content creation style, please do share your feedback so that we can work on those feedbacks and bring quality contents to you in the future. We would like to thank you once again and wish you happy learning. All the very best in your professional career. For any query or concern, you may write us to at beenam.apps@gmail.com.